groundlessness is to dehistoricize that idea. It seems to me that that the kind of spiraling movement in time, whether towards the past or towards the future or towards a kind of infinity, can easily be depoliticized and precisely by dislocating it from questions of historical fact. And this is a film that although it plays on this notion of groundlessness, is also at the same time very clearly grounded in a particular historical moment. And not only, I mean, in two historical moments. One is the October the 29th, 1982, the very date of the Socialist Party election victory, and the other is, and it's perhaps kind of strangely located in that the one part of the film script that survived, which is those two guys sitting under the table, and although if we didn't have subtitles, it would be very, very difficult to figure out what they say, or what at least the most verbose of the two says. But although a part of it is grounded is a direct quote from a film made in which was released in 1983, the beginning part, with its mention of Neptuno and the Statue de Rocha, in the context of when this film was made, sounds very, very, very similar to the events of the 29th of September 2013, 2012, when the Spanish Parliament was surrounded by what remains of the Quintiemi movement, and these dates, the October 29th, 1982, September 22nd, 2012, and 15th of May 2011, I think have by virtue of their iteration, if you like, by virtue of the way that they have been commemorated in different ways, give the film something that, I'm sorry, what was your name again? Rubria. Give the film something of the performativity to which you're referring. You were referring to performativity in the sense of actual performance, both as actors performing, and I suppose the performance of a kind of identity. The way I suppose that Judith Butler conceives of performance, or the way that just beyond theory in everyday life we conceive of it as performance. But I think there's another way of conceiving performativity, and that is as this kind of location of something in a name or in a date that makes a gesture towards the future, towards an unknown future, but a future, precisely the kind of future that you were referring to, the kind of the future that is the present, the anticipatory structure of the present, and that it seems to me gives the film as a totality, both also in terms of its individual fragments, but as a totality, it seems to me this film has a a certain element of performativity about it. I mean, it's also a film that that by virtue of its it's maybe not true to say that it doesn't have when you were speaking, I was thinking of I didn't quite understand when you were talking about, I think you were talking about history, and I heard story.
Story.
Right. This is a film that, although it doesn't have a narrative structure, a traditional narrative structure with a story, it has a narrative structure that takes you from one place to another. This film really is, for the most part, it just is. In that sense, it seems to me to be performative. It is, but it has all kinds of holes that open up to something else.
Yeah. No, that's very interesting, because I was thinking when I was commenting that, because I think it ties everything, that. And you are right. So there is, it just plays with the black hole idea. So therefore, there is this groundless experience. But what goes into the black hole is a specific story that is directly connected with the political transition of Spain. So it's directly connected with a particular history.
Mm-hmm.
So and all these dates that he was pointing out that have been coming out are important, because what the guys are saying that we cannot really understand exactly what they're saying, it is very important. They're talking about a bloody transition. If we think in the transition from the dictatorship into the democracy, but also all the bloody performances in activism that come out in a moment where the political it seems very difficult to articulate. And I was thinking about these black holes here. If we compare them to the puntos de fuga in Arrebato, well, this is Guillermo, so we did it specifically because of
No,
that.
I was thinking of these.
Yes. I was thinking about that black hole here, because this is Tatjana's for the next talk, in an hour. But these are these black holes. So a black hole, we cannot see anything. And I was thinking in this kind of intertext between Arrebato, for instance, right? Arrebato talks about the punto de fuga is in between frames, because it is, we are talking about celluloid. We are now in another moment. So it is also filmed in 16, so we have the film, but we are now in the present. So this is an art done that. So the interframe, the punto de fuga, where we have the spectre in Arrebato, and the image appears in this, with nothing appears in there. And so everything just falls there. So I thought it fascinating when you were exposing all this, no? And then you see kind of in the time of the selfies, there is not even the possibility of doing the selfie anymore, because all we have because I think that the film just presents.
That's a good point, and I was going to comment on is it Dan? Yeah, I was going to comment on in that sense that the idea of the selfie. One of the uncanny is about identity, no? It's about the susceptible. It's about the thing that is inside one that disturbs this kind of interiority that is disturbing. That Freud wrote about. Wrote about, we actually get some pleasure out of reading stories of ghost stories because it brings out what is terrifying within us. within our own consciousness. And it talks about the unhomely, which is it's about ghosts that haunt houses, etc. And it seems to me that the uncanny. This film does have some elements of the uncanny, precisely because it's so out of touch with, or out of joint with conventional notions of national identity. And within the national discourse, it creates a disturbance. Now, and that again, it seems to me that this notion of performativity is above all else about disturbing questions of affiliation, whether national affiliation or any other kind of affiliation, or political affiliation, and that produces kind of uncanny effects, no? What's the only
I'm wondering what you thought of the kind of odd sequence where the woman goes around at the party and lets people breastfeed.
But I think it's a quotation of the other
There's
one.
another back there as well.
There's a kind of reference to that in that quote, in that
Yeah.
clip, and that's in Arabato, yeah.
I mean, because there's something weirdly uncanny about that. It's pretty weird. I mean,
No,
it's
no,
like
it's a
very
murder, but
infantile and yet very much a part of adult sexuality simultaneously. And there's clearly some sort of political metaphor to be made out of that.
Yeah, although I'm loath to read this film as an allegory. I mean, I think it is. I mean, the interesting thing, it seems to me to be, is it's a kind of recreation of a historical moment, very consciously made by people who didn't experience it. Nearly 35 years later, or 30 something years later. In that sense, it's sort of not an allegory. But you can see why you might think of it in terms of as being a metaphor. I think maybe as a synecdoche, or at least as a metonym. This is a film that in a way is a metonym for its own times, and metonyms, of course, they move horizontally, so that, I mean, that might have something to do with what you've observed as the synecdoches that function within the film itself, but as a comment over as the function of the film.
That's wonderful, because I'm thinking of Jameson's political allegory. It's not working for us anymore.
Well, it's not in any way applicable to this,
Yes,
I think.
exactly. And then, so that's it's a smart way to think of it. So which question we're pointing to? Let's open up a little bit on the back. We have eaten our time anyway, so. And we will have to eat because after that
I haven't had breakfast yet.
so they came from Austin. We stole them from UT, so they came here because they were giving a lecture yesterday. I want to also to point out that at 1:30 we are scheduled to have another talk by Professor Gajic. But it was scheduled in this room, but they told me that for whatever reason, there was a conflict of scheduling, so that we are not supposed to be here. So we are going to move to probably 206, which usually it's available. So for you to know, we're going to go 206 after, no? But I don't know, I'll just write it here in the notebook, no? All right? So yes, is there any comments back there in the room that you want to make? Yeah, Claudia.
Look at the black hole that is really key in the film, as almost like the rabbit's hole in Alice in Wonderland, that takes us to this completely messed up world, and that coincides with the Movida. as you say, an historical moment that is not really the key of the film, but at the same time is there. So we can't really forget. So all this mess that's going around Spain at the moment and not knowing the right place.
You mean in the moment? You mean in 2013 or 2014 or in the Movida?
Well, that's a key point, isn't it? That is serves also as a time tunnel, where you can move forward and you can actually imagine you are back in the who or back in the present and serve also as this kind of like you can get in and out in a way. So I don't know.
Yeah. No. I think there is a lot of that, and this incongruous moment at the end of the film when the camera moves outside might suggest exactly that it's a reminder that we are in fact living in the year 2014. It's also this is a film that seems to me to be charged with critique. It is a critique of that generation, not a political critique of the generation of Felipe González. I mean, Felipe González's words ring hollow in 2013 in a country where unemployment is 55%, and youth unemployment is 55%, and unemployment the overall unemployment is 27%. It's those are words that kind of haunt the entire film. It's also the case, I think, that the film never lapses into nostalgia, but there's a certain celebration there's a certain celebration rather than a condemnation of the Movida. It seems to me that the film, if anything, says the politicians or political discourse of the transition was very, very questionable. But the actual Movida, the music and the filmmaking, even though we know particularly because of Arabato, that there are all kinds of negative elements to the Movida. There are all kinds of things that are worthy of celebration. And this the soundtrack, which is music which is really not the famous songs of the Movida. They're the least known songs of the Movida. It's kind of quite an interesting revival of that.